We have all kinds of fancy scientific tools these days that help us predict the weather.
But if we listen, Mother Nature might give us some clues, too. It's our favorite time of year. Time for the woolly worm forecast.
Guess who's back? Judy Fraser here to give us all the information. This is our favorite show every single year.
I think everybody at home is saying, Judy is here. It must be the woolly worm is near. Here he is, folks.
Well, yeah, so let's kind of talk a little bit about the woolly worm. It looks somewhat like that.
Yeah, it's not an exact replica because the woolly worm has many, many more feet than this little guy has. This was given to me by a Camargo viewer when they had their woolly worm festival years and years ago, and I treasure him. He's part of my fall decor.
Yes.
But the woolly worm in actuality has teeny little eyes. They don't see very well. But this guy, he looks like he's had cataract surgery and he's wearing goggles or something. But he has, you know, he just feels. He can't see very well, so he has to feel his way across traverse our highways in the fall. But he's a great little guy, and I have a lot of fun with him and my little fuzzy critters.
Well, for those who might be new to this whole thing and haven't followed the ways of the woolly worm, talk to us about sort of how this process works. We have viewers send you pictures of the woolly worms.
Absolutely.
And then what happens?
Well, this is a little bit of fact, folklore and fiction, probably a lot of folklore, but it started back in the hills or the Blue Mountains and stuff, and people, the early ancestors used to look for the signs, especially with the animals, because they had a heightened sense of weather changes. So every year, the little woolly worms, we look at the coat. I look at its appearance, I look at its color, and I look at the direction in which they're traveling. Now, the latter is a little difficult because I don't expect people to go out with their
compass
and watch these little guys move across the highways, but people have been so wonderful about sending me texts and pictures and texting me about the color and all the things I need to know.
Yeah, we're looking here. They've got 13 different segments, which represent something according to the woolly worm folklore.
Yes, there's 13 weeks of winter, and so each little segment in the woolly worm indicates that week and what the weather's going to be like. And so if you literally spread apart the little segments, you could tell each week of the winter if you wanted to.
Don't try that at home, folks. You don't want to do that to an actual living woolly worm, I don't think.
But usually, you know, you look at the preponderance of colors on the worm, and the general rule of thumb was the darker the band or the segments, the colder the winter. The lighter light browns and tans and oranges, the more mild.
And even to the point that, is it from head to toe as you work your way down, that's what the winter is actually going to fluctuate if the color changes?
Absolutely. In other words, and we had quite a few worms like that this year, where the first 3 segments and the last 3 segments were black, which, you know, means cold. But the bulk of the worm was brown. So that means mild. So it's kind of a mixture.
I feel like this may be headed in a slightly better direction than last year.
Last year,
we'll have to wait to find out.
But weren't last year so accurate?
Well, it was a little off. We still had the polar vortex. We had several of them. We had record-breaking cold in February and November, but the overall was more on the mild side than colds.
There's other ways to also determine what winter will look like. Besides the woolly worm, we've got the persimmon.
Persimmon seeds.
Is that an accurate this year persimmon seed? Is that what they look like, little spoons?
Well, those are spoons. I'm not sure. I didn't get any persimmon seeds this year, so I don't know.
Didn't either.
If people...
I wouldn't know one if it hit me in the face.
Well, they come in different forms.
Yeah, they do. Now, this is the spoons, and that indicates a shovel, so obviously a lot of snow.
We don't want those.
If you have a fork, it's mild, and if you have a knife, it's a cold, biting, slicing, windy, cold winter. So that's what it is. And then if the squirrels are busy with, you know, putting their food away and they do use my urns at home, much to my chagrin, you know, digging holes and so forth like that. But, and when the leaves fall, if they fall at a time or later in the season, so all of these things that we kind of look forward to.
Well,
in addition to this being fun, it's always fascinating to me every single year to see how this plays out. And I know we've got a lot more still to come from you.
We do.
Yes.
What you found and what it's going to mean for.
We've got a lot of viewer pictures to kind of sort through and look at, and maybe we can kind of start making our own predictions here what the woolly worms are going to say. Judy's going to stick around. In the meantime, of course, we'll have this on CILiving.tv.